Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a look at a new composition element, which is avoiding wordiness. Now, when you write in college as well as in your career, it should be concise. And what concise refers to is not only brief, but targeted and really tight writing. You don't want to have your sentences fluffed out and filled with unnecessary words. Likewise, a paragraph shouldn't have unnecessary sentences. So we have to take a look at what we're doing and make sure that we have a tight focus and we're not, overflowing. So there's some different paragraphs here. If we take a look at the first one, right, this first one, and then if we compare it to the second one, right, and if you go through and read those two paragraphs, you'll see that the content, even though it's worded differently, is the same. Now, which is the better paragraph? And the answer is the second one is the better paragraph, and a lot of folks would say why, and it's right here. We've cut the word count, right? We've cut it in half. Why is this so much better? Now, a lot of folks when they look at this and say, well, if I have to have so many words in my papers, then I need to go with this top one, right? Because here I'm using word count. But what's happening here is you're fluffing up your writing. It's full of dead wood and filler, right? And if you were to eat some food, you wouldn't want it to be full of filler, right? In other words, you don't want meat byproducts, you want meat. And this first paragraph, it has meat byproducts. There's probably some gristle in there and some bones that have been ground up and put in with the meat. Oh, that's just nasty. You want to have paragraphs like this bottom one. So as you go through, which I urge everybody to do, is to take a look at this top paragraph as well as the bottom one and see what's happened here. The focus is so tight, so concise, much, much better writing. So this is the target. This is what we want, the bottom one. Now to achieve this level of concise writing, what we can do is we can look at some common errors that beginning writers make, which cause wordiness. So, the first thing is to avoid overusing it is, there is, and there are at the beginning of sentences. Looking at the first example, it is expensive to rent old movies. Now, grammatically, word choice, everything in this sentence is correct, but it's wordy and it's a really flat sentence. We don't want this. So, how could we fix this? Right? What did I do here? It's virtually the same sentence, but it's not weak, it's not flat. The writing has a lot more pop to it. It's a lot more active. It's not passive. And it has fewer words. Much better sentence. Renting old movies is expensive. Much better. Let's take a look at the next example. The old movies were ruined in the fire. You might see this one coming. Right? The fire ruined the old movies. Active always replaces passive. And I always encourage students to remember this, not only in writing, but in your life. In other words, you don't want to spend your life sitting on the sofa. You want to be active and do things in your life. Now, this next one, you'd be surprised how many people write sentences such as, the theater has three main technical areas. These areas are costume, scenery, and lighting. So many people write like this when it's so easy to just go in and use the mark of punctuation that does this. What is that punctuation mark? The colon. Look at that, guys. Boom. The theater has three main technical areas: costumes, scenery, and lighting. Right? This one punctuation mark takes the place of all of these needless words. And anytime you can do this with your writing, do it. Please, please do it. Now, what's next? The word of the day. What's the word of the day? Nominalizations. Zombie nouns. We don't want this to happen. So instead of having zombie nouns, we want to have action going on inside of our sentences. Steve is of the belief that the jury will make a determination of the verdict. P.U. This sentence stinks. Steve what? Not Steve is of the belief, but Steve believes the jury will determine the verdict. Boom. Now, this sentence is not only shorter, but wow, look at the action that we have in here. No longer Steve is of the belief that the jury will make a determination of the verdict. Oh, Steve believes the jury will determine the verdict. So much better there. And again, those are called nominalizations, zombie nouns. Always focus on verbs. Verbs are action. Nouns, those are the actors. Up next, anytime that you can use one word instead of 3 or 4, do it. For example, due to the fact that it is stormy, class will be dismissed at this point in time. There's one word that we could use instead of due to the fact that. Can anybody think of it? Because it is stormy, class will be dismissed. What is at this point in time? Now. Look how many words we've saved, and look how vibrant and active the sentence is now. Because it is stormy, class will be dismissed now. So, when we're talking about avoiding wordiness, we want to cut out the filler, avoid fluffing things up. Focus on action, active verbs. Don't be passive. And don't use 3 or 4 words when we can use one word. So next, go ahead and practice what we've been looking at with these sentences here that are very wordy. These are not good sentences. So go through and practice eliminating wordiness, and then we'll come back and compare.